Hello everyone, as you can see by my 18th century dress as well as my book here, I am Mary Shelley, Minion Michelle, and today for this Book Review Wednesday I thought it would be interesting to briefly discuss my classic book and my all-time masterpiece, Frankenstein, also sometimes known as the modern Prometheus. Now, for this review, I will briefly address sort of the basics of the story, since probably some people have maybe still not heard of it, or their classes haven't discussed it at all, which is a shame because this book is the best, and not just because I wrote it, but because it is the best. So without further ado, let me sort of go over what this story is about. Well, it is intended to be a horror book and sort of a tragedy at the same time. It follows the scientist Victor Frankenstein as he conducts experiments and into which he ultimately creates a monster. And doing so has a lot of consequences as a result. And that is sort of what the focuses on with this story. Now, there were many themes that I was trying to address with this book. Primarily the theme of consequences, in particular consequences that happen when we as humans mess with nature and try to alter things, and assuming that we will get a positive outcome, like Victor expects in the story initially when he's carrying out the experiment. So really my novel was about getting this particular point across to my readers, because I feel that Frankenstein as a story is not only a story of horror but of tragedy, and the tragedy that stems from the consequences that we create when we mess with nature. So this has to do not only with nature itself but with knowledge. There's a lot of emphasis within my story that knowledge has great power, and with great power there can be great destruction. And my story was intended to highlight this particular point, because sometimes when we explore the unknown, we end up destroying ourselves. And that's really what Victor learns throughout this story. And that's really what the focus is on this story in particular. Because even though there are important side characters to this story, for example, Victor's family, the primary focus is on what ultimately ends up happening to the family as a result of Victor's meddlings with nature. So it was designed to be that kind of a story, one that is more skeptical of the unknown, and it's largely and primarily a story that will sort of live on throughout the ages and has been, I think, used over and over again, time and time over the years. And I think this theme still holds true to what could potentially result from those who try to bring out something that cannot be explained or reasoned with. And you will see, though, how ultimately even though the monster is the antagonist of the story, you will see that I try to give the monster a sense of depth, and you will see how ultimately that depth results into him using violent means, even though initially he's not a person that was really designed in that respect. It was more of a societal reaction, and that societal reaction usually happens when we meddle with the unknown. Society ultimately gets scared, and as a result, we get the monster that we cannot control. And that's partly too of what I explore through the story, because even though the focus is on Victor, the monster still gets a significant amount of time to be developed and explored, especially when the monster is initially created and and basically runs off and meets this family. And yes, I think that's really the heart of this story. It's designed to be a book about the unknown and the horrors that the unknown can provide, and ultimately what consequences result, and how ultimately things may not be able to be altered for the better, and that leads to tragedy and to suffering. So that was really the heart of my book and what it really entails. But I think that that's really all I can really address about it without giving the story away as to what ends up occurring. But it's definitely one that I think has stood out over the years and remains to be one of the greats when it comes to horror, and has generated a lot of inspiration over the years. And as a result, we have the Frankenstein monster as we see him in this era. But ultimately, that's all I think I can address for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant Halloween and a pleasant day, month, week, and year. And I wish the next minion much luck. Bye-bye now.